Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Treasury of Constantinople. This week we were going to have a short video about the special series of coins minted in 527 AD to commemorate Justin I and Justinian I as co-emperors, but instead we'll have a long video about Byzantine coins that portray co-emperors from Justin and Justinian in the early 6th century to Michael VII in the late 11th century. For the sake of not rattling out a list of names, I tried to add some historical context to explain how the rulers that we see on the coins are related to each other. This video is quite different from the others, but I hope you'll still find it interesting. Let's get into it. Justin I was the chief of the Imperial Guards before redirecting some funds to support his election to the recently vacant position of emperor after the death of Anastasius. He ruled for 9 peaceful years, in part with help of his nephew Justinian, who he had brought many years earlier to the capital. People seem to dislike Justin for the simple fact that he was illiterate, failing to understand that one being able to read and write is not a requirement to be intelligent, though the opposite is true, and 2, that one cannot consistently win battles by accident or come to the lofty position of chief of the Imperial Guards while not being the sharpest tool in the shed. Justin I was great, and I won't have it otherwise. He seems to have had the amazing ability to lead people without being feared, and trust those that worked for him without being paranoid. They'd take his power away. Justin and his wife Euphemia never had any children. On April 1st, 527, Justin, already in his late 70s and with his health failing, decided to name his nephew Justinian co-emperor. For the next 4 months, the mints of Constantinople, Nicomedia, Cyzicus, and Antioch would mint several coins to commemorate the joint reign and make known to the people Justin's successor. I think I mentioned in a previous video that most of the workshops of the Mint of Constantinople actually deal with gold, not copper, and this can be seen very well by this series. A total of 14 different types of solidus were produced, in comparison to only 2 follies types for Constantinople, and half dozen if you count all the mints together. Here you can see one of the solidus types. The obverse shows Justin to the left and Justinian to the right, and the legend, Our Lords Justin and Justinian, the perpetual emperors. The reverse has an angel standing, holding a long cross and a globe cruciger, and the legend, Victoria AVGGG, followed by the workshop letter. You can read on both the obverse and reverse, Konov, which is the standard of Constantinople. Different solidus types have small differences in the legend, what the emperors are holding, and on the design of the angel, but they all look kind of similar to this one. The follies types only depict Justin, but the legend reads the same as the solidus, Our Lords Justin and Justinian, the perpetual emperors. Likewise, the half-follis and decanomion also only show Justin, but the legend mentions the names of both emperors. There is no pentanomion for Constantinople. Nicomedia only minted follies for this series, and they follow the same pattern from Constantinople. The same is true for Cyzicus. The last mint is Antioch, and the coins that came out of Antioch are definitely the most interesting. They all show the busts of both emperors on the obverse. Here we have the follies with the mint mark antics. Note this was before the earthquake. Then the half-follis, and the decanomion with the legend Concord around. Last but not least, the only pentanomion. This is by far the easiest coin to get from this series. There really are a lot of them around, and you can get one for a reasonable price. Just keep in mind that they're usually in rough shape. The next set of co-emperors to show up on Byzantine coins is Justin II and Tiberius II. On the 26th of September, 578, Justin II was severely ill, so he elevated the Caesar Tiberius to the rank of Augustus. The Mint of Constantinople, either very hard-working or with way too much time in their hands, managed to design and produce a new series of coins in just 9 days. Very impressive. What they came up with was this beautiful solidus, showing the busts of Justin and Tiberius facing, a cross between their heads, and the legend DN Justini et Constan, P PAVG. Note that Tiberius's regnal name was Constantine. The reverse had the angel standing facing, holding a cross on globe and long staff surmounted by the Cairo, all very standard, together with the usual legend. Note also that Tiberius II was not Justin's son or nephew, or anything of the sort. He was his buddy, from way back before Justin II became emperor. Tiberius seems to have been a very good general, which is interesting because he started his career as a notary. But back to the coins, this series actually has two coins, one solidus and one lightweight solidus. Both are rare. The lightweight solidus is rarer, which is probably why I couldn't find any pictures of it. It should look the same as the solidus though, only the globe that the angel is holding is just a globe, not a globe cruciger. In 613, Heraclius proclaimed his eldest son, Heraclius Constantine, co-emperor, and so there are quite a lot of coins that feature both of them, not only gold types, but also silver and bronze types. Heraclius Constantine was 1 year old in 613. Constans II, who was the grandson of Heraclius and son of Heraclius Constantine, named his own son Constantine IV co-emperor in 654, when he was around 4 years old. Likewise, there are many gold, silver, and bronze types with the two together. Constans II had two other sons, named Heraclius and Tiberius. They were both proclaimed emperors in 659. They show up on the reverse of some of Constance's solidus, as well as silver hexagrams, and with their brother Constantine IV on the reverse of many follies. When Constans II died in 668, Constantine IV was 18. It's not known how old Heraclius and Tiberius were, but they were definitely younger than Constantine and in no position to rule. In any case, they remained co-emperors to the dismay of Constantine, and did feature on his coinage. You can find them on the reverses of some of his solidus, just like during the time of Constans, and also some follies. We jump to Justinian II's second reign, when he proclaimed his little son, Tiberius, co-emperor. Baby Tiberius is going to have a very tragic end, but before that, he featured in some of his father's coins, like this solidus or this phallus. After the mess that was the 30 Years' Anarchy, we get to Leo III and the Isaurian Dynasty. Isaurian emperors really liked making family portrait coins, the number of emperors going progressively up and reaching 5 during the reign of Constantine VI. Since most coins from most emperors feature co-emperors, we won't go over all of them, otherwise it would take a while. Also, while the solidus are much more beautiful than the follies, I think it's better to look at the bronze coins rather than the gold ones because, while Isaurian Dynasty coins aren't exactly cheap, they are affordable. So, if you have time and patience and a few $100s, you can probably collect all their bronze coins in reasonable enough condition. Leo III ruled for 24 years. He had his baby son Constantine V proclaimed Augustus in 720. Constantine V started ruling on his own in 741 when his father died. He named his own son baby Leo IV co-emperor when he was only 1 year old. Baby Leo IV usually appears next to his father Constantine on the obverse of coins, while the late emperor Leo III is on the reverse. Constantine V died at the age of 57. Leo IV was 25 years old at the time, married to Irene of Athens, and already had a 4-year-old son named Constantine. If you're wondering why all these people have the same name as their grandfathers, it's not a coincidence, it was kind of a tradition. Anyway, many of the coins from the reign of Leo IV show him with his son Constantine, the 6th if you're counting, on the obverse, and the late Isaurian emperors Leo III and Constantine V on the reverse. Leo IV died at the young age of 30, leaving his baby son Constantine VI, only 9 years old at the time, to rule alone. But rule alone he didn't. His mother Irene made sure of that. What follows is a sad story which ended with the little emperor blinded and then dead. Irene named herself regent and then empress in her own right, which is probably why the crown and the scepter show up so prominently on her person. The two subsequent dynasties, the Nicephoran and Amorian dynasties, followed the trend set by the Isaurians, but they tuned it down thankfully, usually showing co-emperors, fathers and sons, on many, but not all, gold and bronze coins. The silver Milia region, introduced by Leo III, typically didn't have any portraits at all. Nicephorus I appears with his son and co-emperor Staurakios, either together on the obverse or on different sides of the coin. Staurakios died a few months after his father. He was succeeded by his brother-in-law, Michael. Michael is often portrayed with his son, Theophylactus. Michael was eventually forced to abdicate by the strategos of the Anatolic theme, Leo, later Leo V. Michael and sons were sent to wither away in a monastery in Byzantine fashion. Leo V is often portrayed with his son Constantine. Our Leo was not the best judge of character, as he was assassinated 7 short years after he came to the throne by the supporters of a buddy of his, Michael, a different Michael. Different Michael is Michael II, the founder of the Amorian Dynasty. He always shows up on coinage with his son and co-emperor Theophilos. Theophilos, in turn, is sometimes portrayed with his son baby Constantine. Some types also show them with the late Michael II. Baby Constantine died sometime around 836. A few years later, Theophilos had another son, named Michael, like his grandfather, who was almost immediately raised to Augustus. Theophilos died 2 years later. Baby Michael III was under the regency of his mother Theodora and sister Thecla during his childhood. Once he grew up, he overthrew the regency and sent his mother and sister on a one-way vacation to a monastery. Then stuff happened, and after that, Michael proclaimed his buddy Basil co-emperor. The following year, Michael was murdered, and wouldn't you know, Basil became sole emperor. Man, earlier Byzantine emperors sure kept better company. Basil I was the first emperor of the very, very long Macedonian Dynasty. He was clearly the worst friend in the world, but apparently a pretty good emperor. He had many sons, but important to our story are Constantine, Leo, and Alexander. The first 2 were elevated to Augusti early on. Basil is depicted in coins mostly with his eldest son Constantine, and then with Constantine and Leo. After Constantine died in 879, Alexander was proclaimed Augustus too. From then on, we have coins with Basil, Leo, and Alexander. After Basil himself died, the brothers Leo VI and Alexander ruled as co-emperors in theory. In practice, it seems like Leo did most of the ruling, to the dismay of little Alexander, who proceeded to stew in anger for the next 26 years. Many of Leo's coins show the 2 of them together, while others portray him with his son, Constantine VII, who was proclaimed co-emperor only in 908. When Leo VI died, Alexander finally got his chance for 1 whole year before he himself died. Some things are just not meant to happen. Little Constantine VII, only 8 years old at the time, thus became sole emperor. Constantine's mother, Zoe, understandably feared for her son's safety and asked for the help of an admiral called Romanos Lecapenus. This Romanos agreed to help. Then he married his daughter to the little emperor Constantine. Then he crowned himself co-emperor, and then, for good measure, he crowned his sons Christopher, Stephen, Constantine, and Romanus, also co-emperors. The more the merrier, I guess. He doesn't seem to have even attempted to harm the baby emperor, though, which is nice. In any case, we have coins with Constantine VII and Romanus I, as well as with Romanus and Christopher, and coins of just Romanus and Christopher. Christopher died in 931, and Romanus seems to have intended to let little Constantine VII, by this time 26 years old, really succeed as sole emperor. The other 2 sons, upset at this, captured their father, forced him to abdicate, and sent him to a monastery. They then tried to do the same to Constantine. The people of Constantinople were having none of it, and the 2 were stripped of their rank and sent to a monastery, and so Constantine VII was finally able to rule alone. The same year, he named his own son Romanus II co-emperor, and the 2 feature in coins together. After Constantine VII died, his son ruled for 3 years and change, dying at the young age of 24 and leaving 2 baby sons, Basil II and Constantine VIII. Not many coins were minted during his reign, and none with his little sons, despite them being named co-emperors early on. Romanus II's widow, Theophanu, like Zoe, wanted to protect her sons. She did a much better job, in the beginning anyway. She married a very successful general from an aristocratic family, Nicephoran Phocas. Nicephoran was around 50 at the time. He had been married when he was young, but his wife had died without any children, and out of his love for her, he decided to not marry again. Thus, his marriage to Theophanu was only on paper. He swore to protect her children and stabilize the empire. Nicephoran appears with baby Basil II on gold histamenon types. Nicephoran's reign was cut short when his life was cut short, 6 years after his coronation. He was assassinated by John Zimisces, who subsequently became John I. John was also a successful general, and he seems to have regretted his poor decision of murdering someone. But regretting committing a murder after the fact can't really bring people back to life, can it, John? so he resorted to taking his regret out on his co-conspirators, including Theophanu, who was exiled to the islands of the princes, as was custom. He then married Theodora, daughter of Constantine VII, and thus aunt of the baby emperors Basil II and Constantine VIII. The two never had any children, and John also doesn't seem to have mistreated the little emperors in any way, which I guess redeems him a little bit. In any case, they don't feature in any of John's coinage. If you remember the video about anonymous follis, you might think that John also doesn't feature in any of John's coinage, but that's not the case. Anonymous follis are follis, so the bronze coins won't show any emperor for the next 100 or so years, but the gold histamenon and tetarteron, as well as the silver miliaresion will. John I died in 1028, and the baby emperors, by this time conveniently 18 and 16 respectively, finally got to rule. Basil II, like Leo VI before him, did most of the ruling, but Constantine VIII, unlike Alexander, had no inclinations for state business, and so he just enjoyed his time. Most of Basil's gold and silver coins portray him with his brother. After 49 years of doing a great job, Basil II died, and to the misfortune of the empire he had no children of his own, so it was the turn of Constantine VIII. Constantine was clearly not made of the same stuff as his brother, despite having the same parents and experiencing the same childhood. Constantine was already in his late 60s and only ruled for 3 years before dying. He didn't have any sons, only 2 daughters, Zoe and Theodora, so a Romanus Argyros was forced to divorce his wife and marry Zoe because reasons, thus becoming Romanos III. From here until the end of the Macedonian Dynasty, 6 emperors, 2 empresses, and 34 years later, the only coin that depicts 2 rulers together is this solidus from the 1-month and 21-day joint reign of Zoe and Theodora, which happened in 1042, after Zoe's husband number 1 and husband number 2 and adopted son were respectively murdered, dead, and blinded, and exiled. Anyway, next we come to the Doukas Dynasty, started by none other than Constantine Doukas. Constantine, the 10th, only appears with his wife in coins, despite his little sons Constantius and Michael having been proclaimed co-emperors very early. When Constantine died in 1067, his little sons were still little, and his widow, in Byzantine fashion, got married to a strong general, this time Romanos Diogenes, then Romanos IV. Romanus already had a son from his first wife, Constantine, who later died in 1073. Romanus and Eudokia went on to have 2 sons, Nicephorus and Leo, both raised to the rank of co-emperors in 1069, but stripped of it 2 years later when the Doukas family deposed their father, sent their mother to a monastery, and put little Michael VII, who was not little anymore but 21 years old, on the throne. Michael's younger full-blood brothers, Constantius and Andronicus, both co-emperors by this time, continued their cushy, now with Romanus out of the picture cushier life in Constantinople. During this whole time, the only coins featuring co-emperors are a few histamenon and tetarteron types that show Romanus IV with his stepchildren, the little emperors Michael VII, Constantius, and Andronicus. Michael VII had only 1 son, named Constantine, and proclaimed emperor in 1074 when he was born. However, baby Constantine doesn't show up on any of his father's coins. Michael VII was deposed by Nicephorus III, who himself was deposed by Alexius I. And this is where the party ends. From the time of Alexius on, co-emperors, babies or not, no longer show up on coinage. And that's it for this one. If we made any mistakes or missed anything important about this topic, please leave a nicely worded comment below. Have a nice morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this video. And I hope to see you next time. Also, if you like collecting coins, or know someone who does, feel free to check out Adelaide's eBay store, The Spanish Galleon. We're also on Instagram, links in the description.